Hello and very welcome to DNB Carnegie. My name is Claus Elsborg. I'm an analyst at the bank, and today I have the privilege to have a presentation with Initiator Pharma that is out with a couple of news today. And with me online, I have CEO Claus Elsborg Olesen. Very welcome. And maybe you could just kick off with a short presentation of the news flow that you are presenting today.
Thank you, Claus, and good morning to all the listeners. I'm truly excited to be here with the press releases that will be coming out. Again, it's a testament to the continuous growth of Initiator Pharma as we go forward with our innovative drugs within sexual dysfunction and pain. So today we announced a couple of things, and I'll try to touch upon a little bit of these and the ideas behind them and our ambitions with these programs. So we always stated that that we were committed to driving meaningful advancement in women's health. We did that based on our data in female sexual dysfunction, where we saw really strong evidence of efficacy in mice models of FSD and using pudafensine, which is the drug that we have developed for erectile dysfunction for men of organic origin that do not respond adequately to the PD-5 inhibitors. So that is, at that time we said we want to expand that market, we want to expand the value creation of that. And that is what we're actually doing with this program. As we talked about before, that we are still very much focused on ED. We are still taking advances in business development discussions on ED, both as the monotherapy, but also as a combination product. But instead of sitting and waiting around and letting potential buyers dictate the terms, we wanted to create more value to pudafensine. And that is actually what we are announcing today. So again, looking briefly at the pipeline, so as you said, that pudafensine is developing in erectile dysfunction. We have phase 2b data here. And now we want to continue on the first safety study that we actually followed up with a proof of principle in healthy volunteers in pain. So where we showed that we actually got good pain relief in the capsaicin challenge model. And we saw that in a phase 1b study where we actually used the healthy volunteers. So we want to expand onto that and actually build a vulvodynia study. And the vulvodynia is a women's health indication that I'll touch briefly on in a minute. And there we actually want to run a phase 2a study demonstrating again the belief in this high unmet medical need indication. So you can say female sexual dysfunction is still very much in the pipeline. 2018 is still focused on psychogenic ED, and we are continuing business development here. And then we have a preclinical asset 2016 that is an exploratory in depression and in pain. But coming back to what we actually wanted to do here. So we actually want to provide relief to an indication called vulvodynia. So this is, and what we call and often refer to as the unspoken pain indication. And this is severe chronic pain in the vulva. It's more than 13 million women in the US living with daily severe chronic pain, and it is highly impacting their quality of life, the daily life, meaning biking, walking, using tampons, or even interaction in sexual function. And there's no approved therapies in this market. This is a high unmet medical need. And we actually believe that pudafensine has the tools or the profile, so to speak, that it will provide pain relief in this indication. This is actually based on the data that we have done in preclinical models, but also very much in the capsaicin model that is actually, again, a central acting pain relief component in pudafensine, which is also the pain sensitization that we see in vulvodynia. So this is where we want to go. And of course, how do we do that? Well, we want to do a phase 2a study where we do a 4-way crossover study. So that means that we will take in 24 to 34 patients into this study. And then we'll dose them high, medium, or low dose of pudafensine and a placebo drug. So this is one patient that's come in, will see 3 doses and a placebo. We want to include here patients that have been diagnosed with vulvodynia for more than 3 years. This way we can actually ensure that there's not so much fluctuations and flare in their pain profile. And we're using a tampon pain score to include them. So they need to have a certain threshold of pain before we can do this. This is a very translational clinical setting that we are setting up here, because this is, again, what we looked at, provoked vulvodynia, which is the largest group of the vulvodynia patients. About 80% of the patients belong to this group. So what we want to do, the primary endpoint is actually looking at the change in the vestibular pain threshold. So we can actually measure how much pain can they tolerate once they're dosed with pudafensine at high, medium, or low dose or in a placebo. As a secondary endpoint, we will use a tampon test, which is no classical tampon that you can insert and retract, and then you can actually look at a pain rating scale. So this is actually, you can say, two validated measurements, two validated endpoints in conducting a clinical trial in vulvodynia. And then we will, on top of that, we will have some exploratory endpoints where we look at the rating of most severe pain, so 24 hours. We will look at most severe insertional pain, both sexually and non-sexually, during the week after the study. And then we'll also look at questionnaires on the sexual function, as many of these women are not engaging in sexual function due to the pain. So this is actually truly exciting study we want to do. And you can say we have the drug product ready because it's the same product that we are using in ED. We have identified the CEO, which I'll touch upon in a minute. And then it's short timelines. This is not a long study. Again, it's coming into the clinic 4 times and get dosing. And it's a rather low cost study. Again, where we get really, really strong data with absolutely minimal investment. So what we're actually doing here, we actually got a really strong commitment from MAC as a strategic partner. And I'm just saying here that they will also participate in the rights issue that we'll touch upon in a minute and defend their pro rata. So they would actually, again, they would execute the phase 2A trial in vulvodynia. Again, like what we always do, they play a really important role in conducting this trial. We are actually making sure that it's also every single step of the way we follow it with our staff internally. MAC will invest up to 2.5 million British pounds into the study, with today's exchange rate about 32.5 million SEK, to cover the direct cost of the phase 2A. So we need to pay the pass-throughs. They actually, once they completed the study, it will be like the last deal we did with them. They can convert into share, and there will be a 40% premium to the TERP, calculated in connection with the announced rights issue that we'll touch upon on the next slides. So through this agreement, we will ensure continuous support from MAC, a leading CRO, with operations both in Europe and also in the US. So MAC is actually a truly validating investor together with Link, and we are truly excited about them actually coming back into this study. This not only gives us, an investment at a really good price, but it also gives us a partner that we can actually develop this with and really take this to the next level. So really, really exciting. To cover the operational cost and the pass-through cost, and also to go through the other cost, and we will do some optimization. I'll come in a minute on the combination of ED. We are actually suggesting to raise here again a rights issue. And what we are doing here is we are doing a 1-to-4. So and there will be a subscription price of 4 crowns per share. The rights issue is secured up to 86%. And subscription commitments we have from Link and MAC Clinical Research Board and Management. And then we have guarantee undertakings for the remaining 59% from Link, taking a part here as well. And also other shareholders and external investors. The subscription period will run from 10th of June to June 24th, and the record day is June 5th. And we will announce the outcome of it on the 25th. It's just to say that this is the rights issue we announced, and one thing I didn't mention, of course, for the MAC deal, we will call for an extraordinary general assembly to get it approved by the shareholders, and that, of course, is something that we are looking forward to taking, and we'll share shortly in June when we do that. So all in all, we are excited about actually creating additional value to what we're working with here, and it's just to come back to. Are we deviating from the strategy that we set out to do when we started the company? No, we're actually not. We are still very much on track for what we want to do. We are continuing our business development efforts on ED, both as a monotherapy but also as a combination therapy. This is where we will spend a little bit of money trying to strengthen the IP portfolio, especially on the combination therapy, where we see a lot of interest for some of the global players in the market that already have existing PD-5 products out in the market. So this is something that we definitely want to strengthen. And this is also something that will actually help us facilitate either an out-licensing or an M&A with some of these partners there. But in parallel to that, now we're generating additional value and making sure with the neuropathic pain drug in healthy volunteers for vulvodynia, in women's health for vulvodynia, that we're actually getting really strong data. And also we are getting activities in the company, making sure that we are not just sitting around being offered low-ball offers from people who want to take our really attractive ED assets of pudafensine, either as a monotherapy as a combination. So this will together bring us into a much better positioning for having a good dialogue with potential future partners. And this is exactly what we want to do. We want to continue the business development and make sure that we are delivering a deal out-licensing on M&A with the asset either in ED or in the women's health of vulvodynia. Thank you very much. Looking forward to take some questions from you, Claus.
Yeah, thank you so much, Klaus, for the presentation done. And just want to, if you could just give some sort of an indication of the timelines for the vulvodynia phase 2a study.
Yeah, so what we are saying that we are ready. The protocol is actually written up, so we just remaining the few items to make sure we can file it with the regulatory authorities. Our ambition is to run it in the UK, of course, with MEC. And depending on the feedback from them, we hope that we can actually start recruiting either sometime just after the summer, meaning in August, month of August, if everything goes according to plan. We then believe that we should have the data, the study completed at the end of, towards the end of 26, and a little bit depending on when we will have the final report, but we should be completed with the study end of 26. The money that we're actually raising now as well will take us well into 27. So that will give us ample of time on the backside of readout of data to actually conduct a deal on put a fence in vulvodynia itself. But remember, in parallel, we are continuing the advanced discussions in ED, both as a mono and as combination therapy.
And why is vulvodynia the most interesting indication to pursue in women's health or in female sexual dysfunction, would you say?
Yeah, so it all comes down to that you always want to make sure how high is the likelihood of that your drug is actually providing relief. Mm-hmm. And one of the things when we started looking at female sexual dysfunction and actually when we started doing the animal work and so on, we actually got more and more aware of that there was an increasing group of women suffering from female sexual dysfunction that actually was associated with pain. When we looked at this same segment, we identified that there was a rather large group of women suffering from vulvodynia. And I must admit, when I started looking at that, I was actually not familiar with vulvodynia. And I think this is actually something that is quite common amongst a lot of, you can say, non-specialists. But among women, this is very common. So vulvodynia is affecting many. 1 out of 10 women are suffering from this. So it is something that is very common, but you don't talk about it. You can maybe talk about having a migraine and not having a desire for sex, but talking about pain in the private parts is definitely something it's a taboo, so to speak. So it's a very attractive indication in the way that you can say that it's something that there's an unmet need. So how do we connect that, of course, to the profile of pudafensine? So looking through the literature and also speaking with KOLs in this, it's always thought that vulvodynia was very much a localized pain. But back in 2005, Professor Dr. Foster actually did some studies where he showed that vulvodynia is very much a central acting pain. So it's driven by the central signaling pathways of pain in the humans. And the way he did that, he actually took women suffering from vulvodynia, he injected capsaicin, which is exactly the same ingredient from chili that we used in our phase 1 pain study. And he showed that this is actually, increased the pain sensitization in these women, demonstrating that vulvodynia is actually a central driven pain. And with the pain profile we see with pudafensine, this will be a really strong match for this. So when we showed this, the pain profile, the study that we did in capsaicin in healthy volunteers to Dr. Foster, he was truly excited about saying you should actually go in and test this in these vulvodynia patients. And of course, we had explored that more. And now we are firmly believing this is the best suited indication to go in. So not only is it commercial very attractive, but also a very strong scientific rationale for going out there and testing it exactly in this condition. Then that also fits then into our overall, ambition of creating a sexual health company.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, there is no approved drugs in the indication. And how well understood is the pathway forward to the market approval?
Yeah, so the pathway forward, of course, it's a basically you say the normally what pain is. There's a clear path. You know what you need to show in the clinic. We also know that there's a continuous work on the guidelines for how to treat these patients. And there's also an ongoing work on the endpoints that one is using. And right now, the validated endpoints are, again, the vaginal algometer that we are using in our study, and also the tampon test for provoked vulvodynia. So those are the ways to measure it. So there's a good path forward. as you said, there's nothing taken all the way, so there's no all the way to the regulatory approval. But pain is in general one of the areas where we have a good regulatory path going forward to a final approval.
And how far would you say it would be possible for Initiator Pharma to move this pudafensine in vulvodynia in the clinical development?
So we can see now what we want to do now is the phase 2A, where we want to demonstrate that the pain relief profile that we saw in the capsaicin study in healthy volunteers is actually the same as we will expect to see in the vulvodynia. That's the first study. That's the first step. And you can say that would actually give us a package where, again, with the different dose labels, that we can go out and speak with larger partners, both interested in pain, but also in women's health, and saying, do you want to do something together here? Or do we need to take the next step at doing a phase 2B like we did with pudafensine in ED? We can see from the interest in pain in general, but also very much in women's health, that they actually go a little bit earlier in some of these transactions, especially in the partnerships. And this is something that we see as a really strong, something that can drive us, vulvodynia forward, not by ourselves, but actually together with a partner, either starting out with a regional partner or finding a global early on. So we got good interest in this, and this actually came out of the announcement that we wanted to do something in FSD. And of course, this interest is giving us a good hand, because of course, when we are speaking to the ED companies with both the monotherapy and the combination therapy, means again that they cannot just sit around waiting for us to take the next step. They actually need to take the next step.
Are you planning to do anything on the ED side when it comes to clinical development?
Not on the clinical development. The clinical development, we depending on them, we find a partner. You can say if one wants to do a combination, that we want somebody to finance that. We want them to go in and say, hey, if we believe in this, then we will pay for it, and potentially we can conduct a study for them, but it's for their money. Yes.
Yeah, and just a little bit curious, Mac doing another investment in your company, at least helping you with a clinical trial to finance it. Why do you think they are so interested in helping you in these indications?
I think it's not only because they think we are nice guys. I actually think that they see a commercial very attractive opportunity here. They are dosing a lot of drugs in many different indications. And of course, one of the most common reasons, or there's two common reasons for a drug not being developed. One, of course, is safety, and the other one is efficacy. We have seen that pudafensine is very safe and tolerable. So, of course, that's the first step. And then they actually also see that the data we have generated in ED is again a very strong indicator that we're actually getting the right target engagement. We are getting to actually modulate dopamine. And then again, coming in that when with the strong preclinical data and the clinical data made from Dr. Foster, for example, are connecting it together. So I see that, yeah, they want to be part of a study where they are good at conducting it. They do a lot of pain studies, but also I think that there is a very good investment opportunity where they actually can get even more out of that, because they believe that we can sell this asset for a higher value than just by them taking their normal cut for conducting such a trial.
Yeah, and of course, many investors are curious about your BD process. Of course, if it's possible to share any more color to how the discussions have been ongoing, and where do you stand in such discussions?
Yeah, so of course I can't elaborate too much on that, but I can say that we have, as we said all along, there's a restricted group of buyers for ED compounds. Mm-hmm. Some of them see that if they already have an ED franchise where they're selling a branded PD5, for example, Viatris are selling for 500 million. Lilly is selling for a couple $100 million of their Cialis, and there's other branded products out there. They are maybe a little bit afraid of losing some of these franchises. So that's where we can say, but a combination on top of could also be an attractive. And that's part of that discussion that we are having. So we definitely see still an interest here, but we can also see that there's some of these buyers. They also think, we have this a little bit to ourselves, so maybe we can squeeze them even more on price, and maybe we can do some of these things to lower the overall value of the product for us. But we strongly and firmly believe in the value of pudafensine in erectile dysfunction, both as a monotherapy and as a combination product. And that's why we actually saying, okay, let's do something so we actually getting some good cards in our hand again. Second, when we announced the FSD, that we had strong data in FSD and preclinical models, we saw a new group of pharma companies coming into the fold, start driving questions on this. And you can say that, of course, we've been out there validating the study that we have planned now in vulvodynia, and we actually see a strong interest in that as well. So we actually think that this is on the right trajectory to get a really, you can say, competitive BD process going much sooner than we have seen in the last couple of quarters.
Okay. Then to wrap this up, then, what should we expect from Initiator Pharma in the coming 12 months, then, in news flow?
Yeah, so first of all, we need, of course, to get the General Assembly to approve that the MAC deal. That's important. That's the first step. But I think that in these times, this is actually a very lucrative deal. They pay a premium compared to the rights issue, and also I think that this is something that will take us generating data and giving us a stronger BD position. Then second of all, of course, we'll get the approval to get the study started, so we can actually continue with the dosing women suffering from vulvodynia and get the clinical readout as fast as possible. In parallel to that, the BD activity is ongoing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something exciting on that in the coming year, where we can do something either on ED, mono, combination, or on the women's health.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Claus.
Thank you very much for the questions, and have a good day. Great day.